The night sky above Seoul suddenly changed. Where once there were only stars, now enormous dark shapes blocked out the light. Ships the size of mountains hung in the air, silent and threatening. Their metal hulls gleamed with strange patterns that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Kekmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge. Through the massive viewing window, he could see the blue and green planets spinning slowly below. Earth looked so small, so helpless, just like all the others. Another primitive world, he said to his second-in-command, Commander Yelthar. They probably still use chemical rockets and metal bullets. Yelthar nodded, checking his datapad. Intelligence reports show they are divided into many small nations. Fight among themselves constantly. This should be simple. Kekmar had done this 47 times before. The pattern was always the same. Arrive with overwhelming force. Make demands, watch the primitives panic, and surrender. Sometimes they tried to fight back with their crude weapons, but it never lasted long. The hegemon's technology was thousands of years ahead of anything these species possessed. Send the message, Kekmer ordered. The communications officer pressed several buttons on his console. Across every radio frequency, television channel, and internet connection on Earth, the same message began to play. It was translated into every human language simultaneously. People of Earth, the cold mechanical voice began. You are now under the authority of the galactic hegemony. I have 72 hours to surrender completely. Your governments must dissolve. Your military forces must disarm. Your people must prepare for integration into our empire. If you resist, your species will be eliminated. This is your only warning. In the Blue House in Seoul, President Park Hyun-woo felt his hand shake as he watched the transmission. Alien ship on the screen was larger than anything he had ever imagined. Its weapons could probably destroy his entire city in seconds. Sir, his aide Cho Min-soo said quietly, we're receiving similar reports from around the world. The ships are positioned over every major population center. Park nodded slowly. Through the window, he could see the alien ship hanging over Seoul like a dark cloud. Millions of people were looking up at it right now, wondering if they would live to see tomorrow. Get me Prime Minister Kim Dae-ho on the secure line, Park ordered. And contact General Lee Seung-min at Pacific Defense Command. Within minutes, the video conference was established. Kim Dae-ho looked as shaken as Park felt. General Lee, however, seemed strangely calm. Gentlemen, Lee said, we knew this day might come. It's time to activate Silent Storm. Park felt a chill run down his spine. Silent Storm was a protocol that most world leaders didn't even know existed. It had been created in secret after the first UFO crashes in the 1940s, for decades. The world's governments had been preparing for this moment. Are you certain? Park asked. We're wrong if we can't match their technology. ... Then we die. Fighting instead of living as slaves? Lee replied. I'm sending the activation codes now, around the world. Military commanders received coded messages that they had hoped never to see. Colonel Han Jae-sung was inspecting his base in the mountains of South Korea when his secure phone buzzed with the special signal. He read the message twice to make sure he understood correctly. All units, condition read, he announced over the intercom. Operation Silent Storm is now active. All personnel to battle stations. Captain Yoon Do-yoon was aboard a submarine deep in the Pacific Ocean when she received similar orders. Her vessel was not an ordinary submarine. It carried weapons that officially did not exist, built from technology that humanity was not supposed to possess. Take us to launch depth, she ordered her crew. Prepare the special packages. 3,000 feet below the surface of the Earth. Lieutenant Commander Na Yi-enjin walked through corridors that appeared on no government maps. The Deep Strike facility had been built during the Cold War, but its purpose had changed dramatically. Over the decades, now it housed humanity's most carefully guarded secrets. Power up the main systems, she ordered her technicians. Begin the wake-up sequence for all dormant projects. The technicians moved quickly, activating computers and weapons that had been waiting in silence for 50 years. These were not human designs. They were reverse-engineered from crashed alien ships, improved and adapted for human use, above ground. Diplomats and politicians continued to plead for mercy. They offered the aliens anything they wanted: resources, cooperation, even tribute. The aliens listened with amusement, seeing only weakness and fear. Admiral Kekmer smiled as he watched. The human leaders begged for their lives. "They're exactly as predicted," he told his officers. "Cowardly, divided, desperate. Begin landing operations in 12 hours. We'll have this planet pacified by the end of the week." The aliens had no idea that every minute they delayed was another minute for humanity to prepare. The tears and pleas they saw on television were real, but they were also a performance. Behind the scenes, the greatest military minds on Earth were coordinating the largest surprise attack in human history, in bunkers and bases around the world. Soldiers checked weapons that could punch through alien armor. Pilots prepared fighters that could match alien speeds. Scientists made final adjustments to biological weapons designed specifically for alien physiology. The aliens thought they were watching a species prepare to surrender. Instead, they were watching predators getting ready to hunt. Admiral Kekmer stood on his command bridge, watching the pathetic display on the main screen. Human leaders from around the world were still begging, still offering him anything he wanted. Some were crying. Others were shaking with fear as they spoke. "Please," the human president was saying, "we can give you our resources. Can work. Together, there must be another way." Kekmer turned to his tactical officer with disgust. "These creatures are even weaker than the Zephyrians." At least the Zephyrians tried to fight back before they surrendered. The Zephyrians had been the last species the hegemony conquered. It managed to destroy 3 hegemony ships before their defeat. But these humans were not even trying to resist. They were just crying and begging like frightened children. "Deploy." "The orbital platforms," Kekmer ordered. "Position them over all major cities. Let them see what real power looks like." Massive weapons platforms separated from the main fleet and moved into position. Each platform was the size of a city block and carried enough firepower to turn an entire continent into glass. They hung in the sky like metal storm clouds, casting shadows over the cities below. The human leaders on the communication screens began crying even harder. When they saw the weapons, Kekmer smiled. This was always his favorite part. The moment when the primitives realized how completely helpless they were. "You have 12 hours to begin surrender procedures," he announced. "If you do not comply, we will demonstrate the power of these weapons on your largest cities." More begging followed, or offers of gold, oil, food, anything the aliens might want. Kekmer ended the transmission with a gesture of contempt. "Begin landing operations," he commanded. "Send minimal force. These creatures will surrender the moment they see our soldiers." The first wave of landing ships descended from the main fleet. They were sleek, silver vessels that could carry 50 soldiers each. Their hulls gleamed with energy shields that could stop any primitive weapon the humans might possess. In Seoul, the landing ships touched down in the city center. The area had been chosen specifically to maximize the psychological impact. Citizens would see the alien soldiers taking control of their most important buildings and would lose all hope of resistance. The first soldiers to emerge from the ships were tall, gray-skinned beings wearing advanced armor that hummed with energy. Their weapons were elegant devices that could disintegrate matter at the molecular level. They had used these same weapons to conquer dozens of worlds. Commander Vextar led the first squad as they advanced toward the government buildings. His soldiers moved with casual confidence, their energy shields shimmering around them like soap bubbles. They had done this so many times before that it had become routine. Established control points at all major intersections, Vextar ordered through his communicator. "Set up the suppression fields around the government buildings. This should take no more than an hour." As the soldiers spread out through the city center, they expected to see crowds of frightened humans cowering in doorways and windows. Instead, they saw empty streets. The area was strangely quiet, with no signs of the panic that usually accompanied an invasion. "Where are all the civilians?" one of the soldiers asked. "Probably hiding in their homes," Vextar replied. "They know better than to interfere with their betters." What the aliens did not know was that Major Bae Sung-ho was watching them from a concealed position 3 blocks away. He lay flat on the roof of an abandoned building, studying the enemy through powerful binoculars. Around him, his soldiers waited in similar hidden positions throughout the city. "Count 27 targets," Bay whispered into his radio, all carrying standard energy weapons. Shields appear to be marks of N-class. Sergeant Oteung was positioned in a basement 2 blocks south of the landing zone. His job was to monitor the aliens' communication frequencies and jam their sensors when the time came. "They're not scanning for ambush positions," he reported quietly. "Their sensors are focused on detecting large groups of civilians." Corporal Shinara crouched in a storm drain beneath the street where the aliens were walking. Through a hidden camera, she could see their boots passing just inches above her head. She had been waiting in this position for 6 hours, ever since the civilian evacuation was completed. The evacuation had been planned months in advance. Emergency Coordinator Kim Soyoung had worked with city officials to create detailed plans for moving the entire population out of the target zones. When the alien ships appeared, the evacuation began immediately under the cover of apparent panic and confusion. To the aliens watching from above, it looked like frightened humans were running randomly through the streets. In reality, every person was moving according to a carefully designed plan. Within 4 hours, the entire city center was empty except for the hidden soldiers waiting in ambush positions. The aliens' sensors were being jammed by equipment operated by technicians like Ru Dong-hyen and Park Yoon-ji. They worked from a hidden bunker 5 miles outside the city, using technology that had been reverse-engineered from crashed alien ships decades earlier. "Their sensors are reading normal background energy levels," Ru reported to his commander. "They have no idea we're here." The jamming equipment was so sophisticated that it not only blocked the alien sensors, but also fed them false information. The aliens saw exactly what they expected to see: a defeated city with no military presence. As the alien soldiers continued their advance, they grew even more confident. This was easier than any conquest they had ever attempted. The humans were not even trying to resist. They had no idea that they were walking into a trap that had been 50 years in the making. The morning sun was just rising over Washington, D.C., when the alien landing ships touched down on the Pentagon lawn. Commander Vexstar stepped out of the lead ship, his silver armor gleaming in the early light. Behind him, 24 of his best soldiers followed, their energy shields humming with power. "This should be simple," Vexstar told his squad leaders. "Intelligence reports show this is their primary military headquarters. Once we control it, their resistance will collapse completely." The alien soldiers moved toward the massive building with complete confidence. They had done this same operation on dozens of worlds: take the military command center, capture the leaders, and the rest of the planet would surrender within hours. Their energy shields could stop any primitive weapon these humans might possess. Their disintegrator rifles could cut through the strongest metals these creatures knew how to make. This was going to be easier than their conquest of the Zephyrians. The first squad reached the main entrance at exactly 0800 hours. The heavy doors were reinforced with steel and concrete, but alien cutting tools could slice through them like butter. Within seconds, the doors fell inward with a thunderous crash. Vexstar led his soldiers through the opening, expecting to find frightened human officials cowering behind desks. Instead, he found Colonel Im Woojin waiting for them in the hallway. The human officer was not cowering. He was not begging for mercy. He was standing calmly behind what looked like a weapon mounted on a tripod, and he was smiling. "Welcome to Earth," Colonel Im said quietly, and then he pulled the trigger. The railgun fired with a sound like thunder. The magnetic coils accelerated a tungsten projectile to nearly the speed of light. The alien soldier in front hit the ground. Before his energy shield even had time to flicker, the second alien through the door raised his disintegrator rifle. But Sergeant Park Manesio was already moving. The plasma weapon in his hands looked like something from an alien ship because it was. The superheated energy bolt struck the alien center mass, burning through his armor like it was made of paper. By the time the third alien fell, Commander Vexstar realized something was terribly wrong. These weapons should not exist. Human technology was supposed to be centuries behind hegemony science. "Take cover," Vexstar shouted, diving behind a concrete pillar as more railgun rounds filled the air. How do they have this technology? His soldiers scattered, trying to find protection in the corridor, but the humans had planned for this. Every angle was covered, every piece of cover was already targeted. Lieutenant Kim Jae-won and his squad emerged from hidden positions, carrying weapons that no human military was supposed to possess. Impossible. Vexstar snarled into his communicator. Command, we need immediate reinforcement. The humans have advanced weapons. 3,000 miles away, Captain Song Hai-won sat in a hidden bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. She had been monitoring alien communications since the invasion began, and now she had vital information to share. Phoenix base to all units. She broadcast on the secure frequency. The enemy shields are vulnerable to electromagnetic pulse. Repeat, EMP weapons are effective against their personal shields. The message reached resistance cells around the world within seconds. In Tokyo, Major Kang Minho received the transmission just as his unit was preparing to attack an alien command post. The aliens had taken over the city's main television station, using it to broadcast surrender demands to the population. You heard the Lady Kong told his soldiers? MP grenades first, then conventional weapons. Let's show these invaders what happens when they come to our world. The attack began at exactly 0815 hours. EMP grenades flew through the windows of the television station, their electromagnetic pulses disrupting the aliens' energy shields. The moment the shields failed, human soldiers opened fire with weapons that should not have existed. The aliens inside the building had never experienced anything like it. Their advanced armor was designed to stop energy weapons and primitive bullets. It was not designed to stop railgun rounds fired at hypersonic speeds, or plasma bolts that burned at the temperature of stars. Within minutes, the command post was in human hands. Major Kong stood among the wreckage, speaking into his radio. Tokyo base to Phoenix Command. Target neutralized. Enemy forces eliminated. In London, Dr. Lee Yu-jin was preparing for a different kind of attack. Her laboratory had been working on biological weapons for 30 years, using genetic samples that officially did not exist. The samples had been collected from alien crash sites, starting with the famous incident in 1947. Are you certain this will work? Asked her assistant Dr. Park Hee-jin as he prepared the dispersal device. We've tested it extensively, Lee replied. Their immune systems have no defense against modified Earth bacteria. That this strain will spread through their respiratory systems within hours. The biological weapon was released into the London water supply at 0820 hours. The aliens had been using the city's infrastructure to supply their forces, never suspecting that humans would poison their own resources to stop an invasion by 0900 hours. Alien soldiers throughout London began falling ill. Their advanced medical technology had no answer for diseases that did not exist on any world they had conquered before. Back in Washington, Commander Vexstar was trapped in the Pentagon corridor watching his soldiers fall one by one. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. Their weapons were equal to anything the hegemony possessed. Their tactics were more brutal than anything he had encountered. Command, he whispered into his communicator, we have a problem. These humans are not primitives. They have been preparing for this war for decades. Around the world, the same realization was spreading through the alien forces. The species they had expected to conquer in hours was fighting back with weapons that matched their own technology. The easy victory had become a nightmare. Admiral Kekmer stood on his command bridge, watching the battle reports flash across his screens. His forces were being destroyed on every front. Human weapons were cutting through his soldiers like they were nothing. This was not supposed to happen. Enough, he snarled, his voice shaking with rage. If they want to fight, we will show them what real war looks like. He turned to his weapons officer, his eyes burning with fury. Activate all orbital bombardment platforms. Target every major city on the planet. I want nothing left but ash and glass. The weapons officer hesitated. Sir, that will kill millions of civilians. The Hegemony Council prefers to capture populations alive for slave labor. I don't care about slaves anymore, Kekmer snapped. These creatures dare to resist us. They dare to kill our soldiers. Destroy them all. The massive orbital platforms began to charge their weapons. Energy collectors the size of city blocks focused power that could crack planets. Within minutes, they were ready to fire. The first target was Sol. The plasma beam struck the city center at 1,000 hours, turning buildings into vapor and people into shadows burned into the ground. The temperature at the impact point reached 50,000 degrees. Nothing could survive such heat. Tokyo was next. The ancient city disappeared in a column of superheated gas that rose 30 miles into the sky. Then London, where millions of people were vaporized in seconds. New York followed, then Beijing, then Moscow. One by one, the greatest cities on Earth became craters of molten glass. Admiral Kekmer watched the destruction with satisfaction. Now let us see how brave these humans are when they have nothing left to protect. He expected the survivors to surrender immediately. Any reasonable species would give up after seeing such overwhelming power. But the humans were not reasonable. Deep in the mountains of Colorado, General Yu Seung-wan watched the orbital bombardment through satellite feeds. His face was stone cold as he saw millions of his people die. When the last city burned, he turned to his staff officers. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, "they have just made the worst mistake in galactic history. They have shown us that mercy is weakness. Now we show them what happens when you wake the sleeping giant." He pressed a button on his desk. Around the world, hidden bases that had been carved into mountains during the Cold War began to open. Massive doors that had been sealed for decades slid apart, revealing launch tubes that stretched deep into the earth. "All units, this is Olympus Base." General Yu broadcast on the secure frequency. "Operation Ragnarok is now active. All weapons are free. No prisoners, no mercy." The first human fighters launched from Mount Cheyenne at 10:30 hours. They were sleek, black vessels that looked like nothing any Air Force had ever built. Their engines used technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien ships. Their weapons were powered by fusion reactors that humans had secretly perfected decades ago, Commander. On Soo-jin led the first squadron as they climbed toward space. Her fighters' computer systems were half human, half alien, creating a hybrid technology that was deadlier than either species had created alone. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader," she said into her radio. "We have multiple targets in high orbit. Remember, these are the ones who killed our families. Make them pay." The human fighters struck the orbital platforms with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through energy shields. Plasma cannons that burned hotter than stars. Particle beams that could cut through any armor. Captain Kim Byung-soo destroyed the first platform with a single shot from his ship's main gun. The massive weapons station exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from the ground. Within minutes, 3 more platforms were destroyed. "Impossible," Admiral Kekmer whispered as he watched his orbital weapons disappear from his screens. Where did they get this technology? On the ground, guerrilla forces were launching their own attacks. Major Lim Chuan led a strike team against an alien supply depot in the ruins of what had been Paris. Her soldiers moved like ghosts through the radioactive rubble, carrying weapons that could kill aliens in ways their medical technology could not heal. "Remember," she told her team, "they showed no mercy to our civilians. We show none to them." The attack began with biological weapons. Dr. Han the Jin had spent 30 years developing viruses that could target alien physiology. The weapons were released into the air around the supply depot, and within hours, every alien in the area was dead. Lieutenant Park Sang-min was conducting similar operations in the ruins of Berlin. His specialty was psychological warfare. He had studied alien psychology for years, learning their fears and weaknesses. "They are afraid of biological contamination," he explained to his team. "They think our diseases are primitive, but they cannot defend against weapons designed specifically for their biology." The guerrilla attacks spread across the planet. Wherever alien forces tried to establish control, human resistance fighters appeared like vengeful spirits. They used the aliens' own fears against them, releasing engineered diseases that killed slowly and painfully across the galaxy. Other species watched the battle with growing amazement. The hegemony had seemed invincible for 1,000 years. Now reports were coming in of entire fleets being destroyed by a species that was supposed to be primitive. Communications. Officer No Sung Ye intercepted alien transmissions from across the galaxy. The messages were filled with panic and confusion. The humans are not just defending, one message said. They are hunting us. They follow our ships across star systems. They attack our bases with weapons we have never seen. How is this possible? Transmission was even more frightening. They do not take prisoners. They do not negotiate. They just kill. What kind of species fights like this? The answer was simple. The aliens had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. They had turned humanity's greatest cities into glass. Now they were learning what happened when you attacked a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of war. The final battle began at dawn over Earth's scarred surface. Admiral Kekmer's remaining fleet hung in space like wounded beasts, their once mighty ships bearing the scars of weeks of brutal fighting. Half of his original armada was gone, destroyed by weapons that should not have existed. Below them, Earth's surface was a wasteland of glass craters where great cities had once stood. But from the ruins, humanity's own fleet was rising to meet them. Ships that had been built in secret underground factories, powered by fusion reactors that human scientists had perfected in hidden laboratories. Admiral Choi Dong-woon stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching the alien fleet through the main view screen. His ship was massive, built from the hull of an old aircraft carrier, but transformed with technology that was half human, half alien. Around him, his officers prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of both species. Signal from all ship captains, reported Commander Park Ji-hoon. The fleet is ready for battle. Choi nodded grimly. His fleet was smaller than the alien armada, but every ship carried weapons that could punch through alien shields. Every captain had lost family and friends to the orbital bombardment. This was not just a battle for survival. This was revenge. All ships engage at will, Choi ordered. Remember what they did to our cities. Show them no mercy. The human fleet attacked with tactics that the aliens had never seen before. Instead of forming neat battle lines like civilized species, the humans scattered in all directions. They used asteroids for cover, hid behind debris from destroyed ships, and struck from unexpected angles. Captain Lee Suben commanded the destroyer Vengeance, one of the fastest ships in the human fleet. Her vessel darted between alien ships like a shark among whales, firing quantum torpedoes that could phase through energy shields and explode inside enemy hulls. Target their engines first, she ordered her weapons officer. Ripple them so they cannot escape. The alien ships were more advanced, but they were designed to fight other civilized species. They expected their enemies to follow rules of engagement, to avoid civilian casualties, to accept surrender when offered. The humans followed no such rules. Captain Yoon Minesio led Phoenix Squadron in a desperate assault on the alien flagship. His 12 fighters were outnumbered 50-1, but they had something the aliens did not expect. They were willing to die to complete their mission. Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader, Yoon said into his radio. We're going to take out their main guns. Follow me in. The fighters dove toward the massive alien ship, their weapons blazing. Alien point defense systems destroyed half the squadron in seconds, but the survivors kept coming. They flew through walls of energy fire, their ships burning but still fighting. Yoon's fighter was hit by 3 different weapons, his engines failing and his life support damaged. But he could still see the alien flagship's main gun turret ahead of him. With his last breath, he activated his ship's self-destruct system and flew straight into the target. The explosion tore a hole in the alien ship's hull the size of a football. Field atmosphere rushed out into space, carrying alien crew members with it. The main gun turret went dark, its power systems destroyed. Good work, Phoenix Leader, Admiral Choi said quietly, watching the explosion. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. But the battle was far from over. The alien ships were responding to the human attacks with increasing desperation. Their commanders had never faced an enemy that fought with such fury, such complete disregard for their own survival. Major Song Kung Mi led her marine assault team in boarding actions against crippled alien vessels. Her soldiers wore powered armor that had been reverse-engineered from alien technology. And they carried weapons that could kill aliens in ways their medical science could not heal. Remember, she told her Marines, as they prepared to board an alien cruiser, they showed no mercy to our families. We showed none to them. The boarding action was brutal and short. The aliens were superior soldiers in open battle, but they had never learned to fight in the narrow corridors of their own ships. The human Marines moved like wolves in a pack, coordinating their attacks with silent hand signals and devastating efficiency. Within an hour, the alien cruiser was in human hands. Major Song stood on the bridge, looking out at the continuing battle. More human ships were arriving every minute, launched from hidden bases around the solar system. Admiral Kekmer watched his fleet die around him. Ship after ship disappeared from his tactical display, destroyed by weapons that burned through his shields like they were made of paper. His forces were technologically superior, but the humans fought with a fury that he had never encountered before. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender offers from the human fleet. Kekmer looked at the message with confusion. The humans were winning. Why would they offer to surrender? Then he read the actual message, and his blood turned to ice. The humans were not offering to surrender. They were demanding that the aliens surrender to them. The message was simple: submit or be destroyed. They're hunting us, Kekmer whispered. They're not just defending their world. They're hunting us like animals. His flagship shuddered as human torpedoes struck the hull. Emergency alarms blared throughout the ship. Through the view screen, he could see human fighters swarming around his vessel like angry insects. Sir, his tactical officer reported, hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. They're losing atmosphere. Kekmer activated his emergency communicator, sending a final message to Hegemony Command. This is Admiral Kekmer. We have failed. The humans are not primitives. They are apex predators. We thought we were conquering prey. We found something far worse. The human assault continued with ruthless efficiency. Explosions rocked the alien flagship as boarding parties fought their way through the corridors. Kekmer could hear weapons. Fire getting closer to the bridge. They showed no mercy to our cities, a human voice said over the intercom. We show no mercy to you. The bridge doors exploded inward. The last thing Admiral Kekmer saw was a human soldier in powered armor, carrying a weapon that glowed with deadly energy. Then the universe went dark. The war was over. Earth hung in space like a wounded giant, its surface scarred by craters where great cities had once stood. Millions were dead, and the survivors faced a future of rebuilding from ashes. But in the ruins, humanity had learned something important. They were not alone in the universe, and they were not helpless. President Park Hyun-woo stood in the ruins of Seoul, looking up at the stars with new understanding. They wanted to make us slaves, he said to General Lee Seung-min. Instead, they taught us that we are warriors. Round the galaxy, other species watched the reports with growing fear. The hegemony had seemed invincible for 1,000 years. Now they were gone, destroyed by a species that had been dismissed as primitive. The humans had asked for mercy. Instead, they had been given war. Now the galaxy would learn what happened when you awakened a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of survival. Earth had given them fire and fury. The stars would never be the same.